Minister, firstly, I want to thank you for coming into the Chamber to take this topical question. I know that you have a particular interest in transport and rural transport because I saw the efforts that you made 3.5 years ago in the Programme for Government negotiations, and they went right down to the wire because of your insistence on providing transport for rural Ireland, and I know that you are particularly interested in this subject. However, I have to say I'm very disappointed that Minister Foley nor the Minister of State in the Department of Education are here to answer this particular question, because it is very much within their remit, and I don't think it's fair that it is left to you, Minister. Your portfolio is a very different one now, and this is really for Minister Foley and to some extent Minister Madigan. There is a situation down in Limerick where children are being driven to school. They used to have a school bus, they don't at the moment. It's a very immediate and urgent situation that needs to be resolved. Bus provider that had been providing the service has pulled out, and now you have a lot of students being driven by their parents and grandparents, neighbours to school every morning because that service is no longer there. And I want to pay tribute to the students of the Salesian school in Pallaskenry who have mobilised on this particular issue. And the school actually has a very strong track record when it comes to sustainability generally. I met them, other students of the school recently, when they were involved in the Shooting the Breeze project, which was all about the offshore wind potential that is there off our Atlantic coast, and particularly for these students in West County Limerick when they grow up. They've mobilised, they've formed a committee. The chair is a young man named Shane Fitzgerald and supervised by their teacher Marie Keane, and they've come to me and to all Oireachtas members in Limerick City and County outlining this particular problem that they have. But they're not being selfish about it, Minister. They've outlined that this is a problem that exists right across the country because we have two transport systems. Actually, we have multiple transport systems in this country that don't speak to each other. They're not integrated. You have empty buses passing these children as they're being driven to school in the morning. Those children can't use those buses. And where school transport is provided, you have teachers and staff can't use the school buses. So we have an unintegrated transport system. I've called before for school transport to be taken from the Department of Education and put into the department that it rightly belongs in, and that is the Department of Transport, where all of the services can be planned and coordinated effectively. By not having this service, it is putting undue stress on the students and their families, and this is only a microcosm of the problem across the state. I think it should be a priority of this government to fix this system. There's a shortage of resources at the moment, and the resources that we do have, we are not working efficiently.
In relation to specific issues raised by the Deputy in this case, Bus Éireann has confirmed that the service to Salesians Secondary College, Pallaskenry, County Limerick, has not yet commenced due to driver shortages. It is understood this route is affecting 32 pupils, of which 9 are eligible, 9 fall under the TAMS measures and 14 are concessionary. Bus Éireann is continuing to prioritise sourcing vehicles and drivers. However, they have confirmed that a small number of routes remain without a service. This equates to less than 1% of pupils nationally, or less than 2% of vehicles, with services being provided for over 99.5% of pupils on a daily basis. The Department has established an exceptional no-service interim grant to assist with the cost of private transport arrangements families may have to put in place until their service begins. The Department has contacted families directly in regard to this payment. In relation to the route in question, the local school transport team is actively working to establish this service and will continue to engage with families involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Leddin.
That we've got multiple of systems working in parallel that aren't efficient. So what's happening in Pallaskenry is a microcosm of, notwithstanding that number of students represents a very small percentage of the total, it's a microcosm of the inefficiency that's across the system. The review, I expect, should show that it is inefficient and needs to be fundamentally reformed. And I think the main reform is that you give transport to the Department of Transport, just as it is in in every other country. This is a public transport issue. We have a situation where a bus leaves Ballybunion at 6 o'clock in the morning and it gets to Foynes at 6:57 and it gets to Pallaskenry at 7:38. That bus is far too early to be useful for those students. The next bus then is sometime later and it's far too late. So there's an utter lack of coordination when it comes to these services. It makes absolute sense that transport is taken out of the Department of Education. This is fundamentally a transport issue, and that it is given to the Department of Transport. And what we're seeing in Pallaskenry and in County Limerick is a microcosm of a problem right across the state, and it's a serious problem. It's not just about going to and from school. It relates to our climate challenge, it relates to quality of life, it relates to the cost on families as well. A lot of these families have a second car because they have to, one of the parents has to drive the children to school. If we could provide the service, these parents could give up the second car and they could save a lot of money. I think this needs to be resolved for the young people of Pallaskenry and surrounds, but it needs to be addressed for the whole country as well.
Thank you, Deputy, and I hope the situation for those young people in Pallaskenry is resolved soon, and it's clear that the Department is engaging with them as well. I agree, Deputy, in terms of the need for an integrated system, and the point you make in terms of school buses doing their drop and then doing a return journey empty. It's certainly not efficient in a variety of ways. There are other government departments as well, and I'll include my own, DRCD, where we also fund transport services to our community services programme. So there's bits and pieces all over, and I think integration is the key word really in terms of efficiency for the economic side of it as well, but just in terms of the climate and environmental impact, but ultimately to provide a good service to people as well. And I certainly agree with your points around integration of services.